After the victory in eastern Ghouta, the Syrian military turned its eyes to other militant-held pockets across the country. On April the 15th, the Syrian army and the National Defense Forces launched a military operation against Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, in the Rastan pocket in northern Homs. They have liberated a large number of points, including Jarjisa, Ard-Jassiyah, Ard-Kabar-Sheikha, Zarat-Jibab, and Tal-Naura. By April the 18th, the militants had regrouped and launched a counter-attack on Jarjisa. Clashes are ongoing there. A reconciliation agreement has been reached in the town of Al-Dumair in eastern Kalamun. On April the 17th, militants there started surrendering their heavy and medium weapons. About 1,000 militants and their associates are set to withdraw from the area. The rest will settle their legal status. In southern Damascus, the military is preparing for a military operation against ISIS in the Yarmouk camp area. Major reinforcements have already been deployed for this advance. However, the operation may be delayed if the situation in the Rastan pocket turns out to be complicated and the militants' advance there gains momentum. On April 17th, OPCW inspectors entered the town of Douma to probe the alleged April 7th chemical attack. The US-led bloc accuses the Syrian government of being behind it. Russia and Syria say that the attack was staged. Saudi Arabia is open to sending troops to Syria under the US-led coalition if such a decision is taken, Foreign Minister Adel al-Jubeir said on April the 17th, adding that his country has been in discussion with the US on the issue since the beginning of the Syrian crisis. Earlier, a Wall Street Journal report claimed that the Trump administration is seeking to establish an Arab force that would replace US troops in northern Syria. This Arab force reportedly could be established with the support of Saudi Arabia and some other Gulf states. The problem is that Saudi Arabia is currently involved in a long and complicated military conflict in Yemen. The Saudi-led coalition intervened in the country in 2015 in order to defeat the Houthis and to establish a puppet government there. However, since then, the Saudi-led coalition has not been able to achieve its main military or political goals. Its forces have not been able to capture the Yemeni capital. At the same time, the Houthis have increased cross-border attacks against and missile launches at Saudi Arabia. More details and versions have appeared about the alleged April the 17th missile attack on Shayrat and Dumair military airfields. According to a new version originating from some military sources, surface-to-air missile launches by the Syrian Air Defense Forces SADF were triggered by a false alarm and no attack actually took place. The Syrian military made no official statement on the issue, but the state-run media also circulated this version, referring to a military source. The initial claims by the Syrian state-run media and other sources about a repelled attack could be viewed as an example of propaganda in this conflict. The version most popular in the MSM is that the April 17th incident was triggered by a combined US-Israeli electronic or cyber warfare attack.
Le sous-marin britannique a été incapable de participer à l'opération militaire contre la Syrie car il a dû manœuvrer dans la confrontation avec les sous-marins russes, indique Times, en citant des sources. Le journal rapporte que le sous-marin britannique de type Astute, armé de missiles de croisière, a joué au chat et à la souris en mer Méditerranée avec un ou peut-être deux sous-marins russes. En conséquence, le bateau n'a pas pu atteindre les cibles. L'agence syrienne Sana rapporte que dans la ville syrienne de Dumair, au nord-est de Damas, les militaires du groupement terroriste Jais al-Islam ont commencé à rendre leurs armes. La remise des armes lourdes et moyennes a commencé dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de l'accord entre l'État syrien et les militaires de Jais al-Islam à Dumair, indique l'agence RIA Novosti. Environ 1 millier de militaires devraient quitter la ville dans la direction de Jarablus au nord d'Alep.
تمام تمام.
البيت انت امه متشبه بعد واقفي.
راح يوصلوا على الأبب.
الله يحميك معلم. الله يحميك.
الله يحميك. الله يحميكم يا شباب.
الله يعافيك يا شباب. الله يحميك.
طالع جعفورة ما طلع لسه.
Recently, rumors and provocations have become the main, if not the only, instrument of the so-called U.S.-led bloc to justify its aggressive and two-faced policy around the world. On April 14, the U.S., the U.K., and France delivered a massive missile strike on Syria, describing their actions as a response to the alleged chemical attack in the town of Douma. According to mainstream media MSM, quoting local activists linked to Douma militants, about 50 to 70 people were killed and up to 1,000 were injured in the alleged attack. At first, the so-called international community blamed Iran, Russia, and Bashar Assad's regime, without providing any evidence confirming this claim. As always, all the accusations were based only on reports from pro-militant sources. On April 9, a missile attack hit the T4 airbase in Syria, further fueling the escalation. According to the Russian military, the attack was conducted by 2 Israeli F-15 warplanes. The entire chain of events was triggered by a series of unconfirmed social media messages and allegations of pro-militant sources. Who needs credible evidence if there are such usefully timed posts in the social media and local media outlets affiliated with militants? On April 7, when the alleged attack took place, Douma was already completely encircled and besieged by the Syrian army. Jaish al-Islam, which was the main militant group in Douma, and its allies, had no chance of winning the battle for the town. On April 8, the militants officially accepted an evacuation agreement and agreed to withdraw from the area to other militant-held parts of Syria. First, regime forces attacked Douma's defenders with the toxic gas. Second, these defenders agreed on the evacuation. Apparently, they were not afraid that the Assad regime would poison their evacuation buses with some toxic agent. But there is a remarkable coincidence here. On April 3, the U.S. President Donald Trump was going to pull the American troops out of Syria. The president's words were at odds with the rest of Washington. The MSM and the establishment made no bones of its opposition to this plan. However, after the Douma incident, the U.S. military will obviously recall its moral obligations to stay in the occupied territories in northern and eastern Syria to defend them from the regime, which constantly uses chemical weapons. About a year ago, almost the same scenario was observed over the Khan Sheikhoun incident. On March 30, 2017, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley stated that the regime change in Syria was no longer the goal of the U.S. foreign policy. On April 4, the bloody dictator Assad allegedly committed the chemical attack in Khan Sheikhoun, killing at least 74 people, according to local activists linked to militant groups operating in the area. Without conducting any investigation, the so-called international community concluded that the Assad regime had been behind this attack. On April 7, the U.S. struck the Syrian Air Force's Shayrat Air Base with cruise missiles. According to Washington, the Assad regime had used this airbase to conduct its Khan Sheikhoun attack. Like the Douma incident, the chemical attack in Khan Sheikhoun took place when militants were in full retreat, this time in northern Hama. However, the dictator Assad broke bad and decided to use the chemical weapon in the eyes of all the international community. The international investigation of the Khan Sheikhoun incident was mainly based on pro-militant sources and open-source research. UNOPCW investigators did not visit the place of the alleged attack and disregarded almost all the inconsistencies in the Assad did it version. To sum up, Assad's bloody regime committed 2 chemical attacks against civilians within a year. Both times, the chemical weapons were used without any military purpose, amid or ahead of the important diplomatic or military events related to Syria. On March 4, the Russian ex-spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were poisoned in the UK by the alleged nerve agent Novichok. London rushed to accuse Russia of being behind the poisoning, but refused to provide any evidence besides "Russians did it." The initial claim of the UK Foreign Office that the nerve agent's origin was identified as Russia was just revealed to be a pure lie. In early April, deadly poisoned Sergei Skripal revived after this incredibly powerful chemical agent. Nonetheless, the UK, the US, and their allies used the incident to expel Russian diplomats and to increase a diplomatic and media pressure on Moscow. As usual, it is a foregone conclusion who would be highly likely blamed in this international investigation. It is as if the US-led bloc is satisfied to take the British gentlemen at their word. The MSM narrative says that this is just a chain of coincidences, which only unmasks the evil face of the West's opponents at the international scene. But there is a clear pattern in all 3 cases. A horrible accident using the chemical weapon occurs, always when it is absolutely unprofitable for the alleged attacker. The so-called international community rushes to apportion blame without any evidence and investigation. Diplomatic and economic measures or direct aggression are launched against the accused party. A non-transparent and biased investigation based on rumors and fabricated evidence takes place. Additional pressure is exerted on the accused parties, regardless of the procedure and the results of the investigation. Rinse, lather, repeat.